Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic, exploring Sri Lanka's wildlife and cultural treasures, presented by NatHab Expedition Leader Ramani Jayewardene. I'm your host, Rob Mess. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Take it away, Ramani.
Thank you, Rob, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Or in Sri Lanka, we would say, Ayubowan, long life. As our Sri Lanka trips are drawing closer, my colleagues and I are getting very excited to show you around this beautiful island. So first, let me show you where Sri Lanka is located on a map. As you can see, it's a small little island at the tip of India. So a lot of you will be traveling a long distance to come here from the States. So those who come from the East Coast will probably be flying over the Atlantic and having a break in the Middle East and then flying over to Sri Lanka. And the others on the West Coast will probably fly over the Pacific and come via Singapore to Sri Lanka. So as you can see, it's a very small island. It's about 25,000 square miles in size, and it is located between 5 to 10 degrees north of the equator. So our temperature is pretty constant throughout the year, but although being a small island, we have mountains in the center of the island. So the temperature from being constant, by what I mean is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit almost throughout the year. But when you go into the central hills, it can go down to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's go to the itinerary. So here you will see I've shown airport. Yeah, so the airport is in a place called Katunayaka, which is north of Colombo. And on arrival, you will experience the Silk Road arrival service. When you disembark from the plane and enter the airport, you'll be met by an airport representative who will have your name or names on a board. You'll be fast-tracked through immigration and taken to the lounge, where you'll meet a NatHab representative. While you have a drink or browse through the duty free, your bags will be collected and brought to the lounge. Please make sure all your checked-in bags are well labeled with NatHab tags on, so it expedites the job of getting your bags to the lounge. You will then travel with your NatHab representative to the start of our starting point, which is Horathapola. So let me take you to the, okay. So just to let you know where Horathapola is, so we started around the airport and we have a 45-minute to an hour's journey, which brings us to Kandanagedara or Horathapola estate where we stay. Now this is a 50-acre coconut plantation and we will be staying in a 150-year-old colonial bungalow, which was the bungalow from where the superintendent used to live and run the coconut estate. Today, it's been converted into a boutique hotel. And so, since it's not purpose-built, all the rooms are very different and different in size. Most of you will be arriving very early in the morning or very late at night. So when you arrive there, you'll be traveling in the dark. But there will be a person on the estate who welcomes you and shows you to your rooms. So please feel free to rest and sleep in and take it easy the next morning. Those of you who arrive early, there are lots of activities which I will explain to you about in a minute. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like, It has paddy fields or rice fields right around, and lots of coconut trees. Um, and there are lots of fruit trees and spices like pepper growing on this estate. So, like I said, for those who arrive early, you can do a trip to the choir rope factory. That is where they make ropes with the coconut fiber. There is a village tour, and there'll be a tour around the coconut estate, which your expedition leader will do once all the guests have arrived on day one. So here we have some of our previous guests trying a fresh coconut or a young coconut, which we call a kurumba. Our next stop will be Sigiriya. Sigiriya is where we have the Lion's Rock. That's about a 3 hours journey from Horatapola, and we always have what I call a tea and tea stop kind of midway on our journeys. Um, and then we will get to Viluyana. Viluyana, we'll be staying in these little chalets which are on stilts in the paddy fields. It is what we call a chaina cultivated land, or where they carried out slash and burn irrigation, and now they've converted it back into a wetland. And as a result, a lot of the animals have come back that one would find in a wetland. For example, um, there are peacocks that have returned, there's a giant tree squirrel, and the little loris, which is one of the animals we'll be on the lookout for. It is one of the most primitive of primates. We also visit the Lion Rock or Sigiriya. Sigiriya is about 600 feet um, in height, and it's about 1,200 steps to get to the summit. Um, it seems daunting, but we usually take it very slow, and it is quite rewarding once you get to the summit, because you have an amazing view from up there. For those of you who find it difficult to climb up, you can spend the time that the others take to go up at the bottom, because it is a beautiful garden with lots of birds, some of the endemic birds, land monitor lizards, and monkeys, both the endemic talk macaque and the grey langurs. You can also get to this point at the Sigiriya rock, and there are lots of caves at the base of the Sigiriya rock. And as you can see here, there are these bricks where they built it up and made little kutis, or little rooms where the monks used to meditate. This was a place where monks meditated before King Kashyapa made it his palace in the 5th century AD. So those of you who stay down will be looking at the birds like these guests chose to do. This is one of the species of monkeys, the talk macaque. They are rather cheeky, so you have to be sure you don't carry any food, because they will grab your bags to get to the food. And then we have the less intelligent, or so they think, the grey tufted langur monkeys. From here, we'll also visit one of the national parks that's close to Viluyana. There are 3, but depending on where the elephants are and where we get the news that the elephants are at, we will travel to that national park to be able to observe the social organization of these wonderful mammals. As you can see, in Sri Lanka, mainly in the northern parts, you do still have wild elephants walking along the road. Some of them cross railway tracks, and unfortunately we have a lot of accidents, but you can see them while we are driving along the road as well. Another place we'll be visiting while we are at Viluyana is the remnants of the ancient civilization of Polonnaruwa. It was a kingdom in the 12th century AD, and there are these beautiful sculptures which are hewn in one slab of rock. So you have the standing Buddha statue and the lying Buddha statue. They are incredible pieces of work. From here, we travel on to Nuwara, which is a hill country. But on the way, we make a brief stop in Kandy. And Kandy is the beginning of the mountainous regions. It's at about 3,000 feet. And here we stop to look at the Temple of the Tooth. The Temple of the Tooth is where it is believed that there is a tooth of Lord Buddha in a casket kept in the shrine there. And all the people come here to worship almost on a daily basis. In the past, wherever the ancient kingdom was and who had the tooth relic, he was the one who was the ruler of the country. And it still continues today. When a new government comes in, the first stop they make is at the Temple of the Tooth to get the blessings before they start the new parliament. This is just inside the Temple of the Tooth, where we'll walk through. We make a quick walk through the temple, just that you get an idea of what it's like. We will pass a lot of people who are there worshipping, and we will walk through on our way to Nuwara. So our next stop is Nuwara, which is in the tea country. So Nuwara is at about 6,000 feet in elevation. And here is where it gets cooler. So it can get down to between 40 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, especially in the mornings. And this is where we'll have to have our warm clothes. So the tea was planted here by the British in the 18th and 19th centuries. This is a house that was built fairly recently in the mountains. It was not built again for a hotel. It was a home, but has been converted into a boutique hotel. So again, the rooms are slightly different. But it's a beautiful place overlooking the old horse track. And inside, it has this very cozy living room area, and we will occupy the entire bungalow. So we have our privacy and we can enjoy the whole space. From here, we do several small excursions. One will be to this beautiful place, which is Horton Plains. It is between about 6,900 to about 7,000 feet in elevation. It is a montane evergreen forest with montane grasslands. And here it's also a UNESCO heritage site. And what we do here is we go to look for endemic lizards. There are 3 species of endemic lizards here, endemic birds, and a lot of endemic flora. Here you see some of our guests looking for the birds. And this is the type of vegetation. We have a lot of rhododendrons and calophyllum, wild orchids. Here we have one of the endemic lizards, which is the pygmy lizard. You have to keep looking up in the trees because they're well camouflaged, as you can see. There are beautiful landscapes, mist covered sometimes. Early in the morning, it's a lovely clear view, but pretty soon there is the mist rolling in. We also experience the tea, how tea is processed. We will also be put to work so that we understand how delicate picking tea is, because when you pick tea, you only pick the two leaves and a bud, the fresh leaves. And that's one reason why Sri Lanka tea is so famous, because it's hand picked, unlike in a lot of countries where they use machines to get the tender leaves. So there's a mix of very mature leaves and the tender leaves. Um, we will do a tour of the tea factory, and then at the end of it, we will realize how what a valuable thing our cup of tea is, and we won't take it for granted. We also visit a place called Hagala Gardens, which was where the British first started growing cinchona, that is from where we got quinine, which was a treatment for malaria. At that time, malaria was rampant in all the countries they colonized. And we didn't have cinchona growing here, so it was brought from Central America and grown here. But after a while, they experimented with tea, and then it was transformed into a botanical garden. Today, it's second largest botanical garden, which we'll be visiting. Next, we drive down. It's about a 4-hour journey. We drive down from the mountains right down to the plains to Yala National Park, which is about 500 square miles in size. And it lies close to the coast and a little inland as well. It's a beautiful drive because we pass through all different vegetation types, starting with all the type of vegetation that grows at altitude, and then we wind our way down to Yala. And I forgot to tell you before that, when we are driving up to Nuwara from Kandy, the roads are a little windy. They are narrow roads, and our bus has to wind its way up to the mountains, but it's very scenic and beautiful. So in Yala, we'll be staying in these tents, which are air-conditioned tents, and they have attached bathrooms, and they're raised on these platforms, as you can see. Um, Here we'll be doing 2 safaris a day, each lasting about 3 to 4 hours. The roads can be dusty, muddy, and fairly rough, but we travel in lovely Land Cruiser vehicles, which are some of the best that are in the park. We also travel to different blocks. Yala is, like I said, about 500 square miles in size, and it's divided into different blocks. So depending on the news that the campsite has about animals and where the animals are, we will be traveling to those blocks. So block 1, which is the closest to the camp, is about a 20-minute drive, and block 5, which is used, is about a 40-minute drive on a road which bisects through the park. They have built a road that goes through the park part of the way. The sightings are opportunistic. We follow tracks and signs to look for the animals, and the sightings also will vary from trip to trip. We have 3 nights here. This is where we have our meals. Generally, meals are alla fresco. They set it up outside, outdoors, and they change the setting. So each day we'll be having our meals in a different place, which is lovely. If there is rain, then they have a dining tent, and we will have our meals there. Then just to give you an idea of what the park looks like, we drive past these beautiful rivers, these riverine forests with these beautiful kumbuk trees, really majestic looking trees. And Just to give you an idea how different the safaris in Africa and Asia are. In Africa, in most of the parks, you have these vast savanna lands, so you can see in the distance, really far into the distance. But in Asia, we have a lot of scrub, and it's very challenging to track the animals. And leopards, as you know, are very elusive, and so we are not able to spot them on every drive, but hopefully we will be able to see them. Then some of the other animals are these beautiful elephants. um, Not all Sri Lankan elephants have tusks, so if you do see a tusker, we are very lucky, because it's only about 5 to 7% of our elephants who have tusks. um, the females don't have tusks at all, and only 5 to 7% of the males have tusks. Then we also see lots of beautiful birds. These are some painted stork. Here they are having a feeding frenzy. And then we have majestic birds of prey like this serpent eagle, and as its name implies, you can see it has caught a python, a young python, and it's having a scrumptious breakfast. We also have crocodiles, and we don't have any natural lakes. We will be talking to you about reservoirs, and by that we mean man-made lakes. And in all of these lakes, we have these crocodiles. And during the dry season, when these lakes dry up, you find them moving to another water hole. We also have this majestic looking crested hawk eagle on the left. And on the right, we have the rose ring parakeets. Here you see a male and female, uh, and they make their nests in hollows of trees. And this is a ahinga, or a snake bird. He has just flipped the fish so that the head is facing his throat so he can swallow it easily. They are called snake birds because when they swim, they only have their necks sticking out or their heads sticking out, so they look like a snake. And then from here, we spend 3 nights here. So this is the only place where we spend 3 nights. The other places are 2 nights. And then we drive down along the coast, and we make a stop at a place called Bundala. And Bundala is an important wintering ground for migratory water birds. Uh, so we have breakfast generally in the park, and this is on the cliffs there and with a view of the ocean. Sometimes you can spot a turtle if you are lucky, swimming or coming to the shore to lay its eggs, or having laid its eggs in the evening, going back into the water. But it's just beautiful to see the ocean, which is really a real clear blue turquoise blue. Then we make another stop at a cinnamon plantation, and here we have the gentleman explaining how the cinnamon bark is got. It's not a job that anyone can do. It's a very specialized job, and we are lucky to be able to watch how they peel the cinnamon and how they make the cinnamon quills that we buy in supermarkets. We also are able to see how they make cinnamon oil, and we will end our tour by going up to the top of the hill where there's a beautiful house like a Spanish hacienda where they host us for a lovely lunch. And then we head to Ahangama, which is our final destination. Here we stay at this villa, which is right on the beach. It has a lovely swimming pool. We can also walk on the beach. You can swim in the ocean. It's really lovely here. This is just to give you an idea of what a room looks like. And we stay here for 2 nights. And like I said, each place we have different activities. One of them is going dolphin and whale watching. Um, Here you have a whale fluking. Then there are some bottlenose dolphins. On occasion, we have seen whale sharks, flying fish, some migratory seabirds. We also travel to the Gaul Fort, which is one of the best preserved European forts in Asia. It's a living fort. In that I mean it's still functioning as a fort. Uh, People live in the fort, but unfortunately the purposes the houses are used for have changed. Some of them have been converted to boutique hotels, but businesses carry on in here, and it's a very nice place. It is the only place will have a bit of retail therapy possible because all the other places are in the wild. Um, this is looking at the fort from the ramparts and the old lighthouse. And from here, we travel down to Colombo, which is our final destination. And here we'll have our lunch in this beautiful restaurant, which is known as the Gallery Cafe. It is the office of a very famous architect, Jeffrey Bawa, who built many beautiful hotels in Sri Lanka. So we are very fortunate to be able to visit this place. So that's just come to the end of our itinerary, giving you a brief view and some few little facts about what we will be doing on this trip in Sri Lanka. So unlike other trips, it is not only nature based, there's a bit of culture also included because Sri Lanka is an ancient civilization of over 2,500 years. So it would be a pity if we didn't experience a little bit of it. So let me talk about meals. We have a selection of both Western and Eastern cuisine. The Eastern cuisine is where we use a lot of different spices like cumin, cardamom, cloves, cinnamon, some chili. But it's interesting that chilies came only when the Portuguese brought it from Central America. Before that, we just use pepper to spice it up. But in most places that we visit, they don't use a lot of chili because otherwise you lose the flavor of the food. And for those who cannot eat very spicy food, there are always other options. Dietary restrictions and preferences are also always met if you give them sufficient notice, so it isn't a problem. Just to give you an idea of the different types of food, here we have what we call string hoppers and dal, potato curry, fish, and coconut sambal, which is fresh coconut ground with some chili and onions. These are rotis, the only flatbreads we have in Sri Lanka, unlike India, which has many different varieties. And these are made with rice flour. Sometimes they use millet, and sometimes they use wheat flour. Then we have what they call pittu, which is another interesting dish, which is made with rice flour mixed with coconut and steamed. And then we have these interesting hoppers. So all these cuisines are really a mixture of different cuisines because Sri Lanka was an important point or location on the uh, maritime trade route connecting Europe to Asia. We have a lot of different cultures that have come here, and we have this magical influence on all our food. So we've had the Arabs here, then the Chinese, Malays, and the Europeans, first the Portuguese, the Dutch, and then the British. So we have an interesting mix in our food. So this is a typical rice and curry. with lots of vegetables. And another interesting thing is when the British came and they opened up the hill country, they were able to grow all what we call the high country vegetables like carrots and beetroots and cauliflower, broccoli. So we have the European vegetables growing up in the mountains, and in the plains we have all the different local vegetables like the yams, okra, aubergine or brinjal, long beans, and a lot of other gourd types growing. So we have a lot of different vegetables. So most of our trip will be traveling in these buses, which are about 30-seat bus. So there's plenty of space for everybody. Generally, each person has about 2 seats, and you can um, uh, sit at different places on the bus, so you have different views as we travel along. So it's air conditioned and very comfortable. We also have these jeeps. These are the type of jeeps that will be traveling around in the elephant country. And then we have these land cruisers that we'll be using in Yala. They don't let the tops be open, so we have a covering on the top, but the sides are open. Like I said, as a result, it's quite dusty. So these buffs given to us by NatHab come really handy during these trips. And then when we go dolphin and whale watching, we have a boat to ourselves, somewhat like this. So we have a lot of space again. Sometimes the seas can be quite choppy, and some days we have nice calm seas. Just to give you an idea about the physical requirements, this is not a very physically requiring a trip, but there are a few walks that might be a little difficult. In Horathapola, where we start on the coconut estate, the paths are flat and easy to walk. The only thing is that we have to remember it's a tropical country, so it is hot and humid, and that's what gets most people. But you get acclimatized to it after the first or second day. It's not so bad, and the walks are easy. When we walk around the coconut plantation, uh, it's about a 50-minute to 1 hour walk. And then when we get to the Lion's Rock, that's the most difficult of the walks if you do climb up to the rock, to the summit of the rock. Um, but the walk in Polonnaruwa, we do a primate walk through the archaeological site, which is about 2+ hour walk. There again, it's flat terrain, but you have to watch out because you have bits of pillars, stone pillars, and bits of archaeological stuff in your pathway, so you have to watch out. Sometimes the grass is tall, they haven't cut it, but it's an easy walk. Then we also have a night walk where we go looking for lorises. It's about an hour's walk. There again, we have to watch our step because we are walking around in the dark, but we have our head torches on. Horton Plains, if anyone likes to do their options, there's a World's End tour, which is about a 3 hour walk. Here, of course, the terrain is pretty rugged because unlike other, like in Europe or in America, where you have your pathways through parks, walking pathways are well maintained. Here, they're not maintained, and with the rains, they get really eroded. So they're kind of very rugged and uneven paths. Then there's another walk that we can climb to the second tallest mountain, which is Totupolakanda. It is about a 2 hour plus walk. Depending on if it has rained or not, it can be muddy and a little slippery, but if you do manage to get to the top, you have a beautiful view of the Horton Plains. Then we have a place called Hagala Gardens where we stop, and it's an easy walk through the botanical gardens. And then we don't have any walking in the national park because we're always in our trucks. And finally, the last walk would be in the Gaul Fort, which can last from an hour up to 2 hours, depending on how much you want to walk and explore. Just to give you an idea again of the temperatures, the hottest we'll encounter is between 88 to 90. Generally, in the early months of the year, it tends to be a little cooler than this. It doesn't go up to the high 90s. It's generally more in the 80s. And like I said, the coolest we will encounter is up in the mountains in the tea country, which it can be, especially in January, down to 40 degrees. Between 40 degrees to 60, but January tends to be the coolest. But it's lovely. Here you can have a hat or a beanie, warm closed shoes, a fleece will be useful. And on some occasions, some of the guests have told me, Ramani, we should have had gloves. So even gloves are useful. And here, should you want to walk, we also have sticks that we have with us, so you can use some sticks to walk, which helps. And then lots of people are in the quandary always, what do we wear? So most of the time, like I said, it's going to be warm and humid. And we have insects, but not lots of them. Mosquitoes generally towards the evening, but not all places will have mosquitoes. Um, and in the mornings it can be fairly cool, so generally long sleeve shirts and long trousers are ideal. But on days that we travel on the bus, we can wear shorts and a t-shirt and sandals, and in most places we can wear our sandals, but preferably where the toes are covered, because while we gaze up in the trees looking for birds, or while we are walking along, talking, we don't always watch where we put our steps, so we don't want to stub our toes. So sandals where the toes are covered would be ideal. Um, Also, hats are very valuable because of the sun, to give us some shade. Lots of sunscreen is important. Please bring your water bottles that NatHab gives you, because we try to reduce our plastic use as much as we can. So we carry a big container of water in whatever vehicle we travel, so we can refill our bottles. And being in a tropical country, one never knows when we can have a shower of rain. So a rain jacket is always useful. Then for gear, camera, and if you do carry a camera, then your camera battery and charger, a memory card, binoculars would be great if everyone brought one, because we use it quite a bit on these trips. 8 by 42 or by 10 by 42 would be perfect. Most hand phones or mobile phones also double up as great cameras, so they are fine. And oops, just to give you an idea of the plug points we have what we call type D and type G. Now most of the properties have converted to this type G. So if you have a universal adapter, that would be perfect, but we also carry some with us in case you've forgotten. Internet is we have internet in most of the properties. In the jungle in Yala, we have Wi-Fi only in the dining area, not in our rooms, but we have electricity everywhere, and the charging is 220 volt. Um, that's all for the equipment. Then when you're applying for your visas, uh, you will have different categories. So choose the one that says tourist visa with double entry for 30 days. And the site is this www.eta.gov.lk. And when you're applying for the visa, the information that you should have handy is your passport, which should be valid for 6 months, the flight information into Colombo, your date of arrival, and your credit card for payment. It's $50. and your address. Should they ask you for the address in Sri Lanka, you can give the and beyond office. There are local agents, the office, and their mobile number. And this is what the site will be you'll see for to get your e-visa, just to give you an idea so that you're familiar with what it looks like. There are many sites, but please look for the Sri Lanka Electronic Travel Authorization System. Then when it comes to money, it's only for personal spending because everything has been paid for except for the alcoholic beverages in the middle of the trip. The first day and the last day we cover the alcoholic drinks, but in between, should you have alcohol, you need to pay for it. The food and juices and other drinks are covered by us. And you can use your credit card in most places. Um, Otherwise, if you like to have some cash handy, you can always change about a $50 at the airport. At the moment, the exchange rate is $1 is about 290 Sri Lankan rupees. We also can access ATM machines if required on our journey, so there is no worry. For discretionary gratitude, you may want to bring an envelope for discreet presentation, but the tips are mentioned in your pre-departure handbook, so please check it. It has a lot of valuable information regarding the trip, um, and all the tips are covered other than the local guide's trip. Just to give you an idea what the money looks like, we have large notes. So the yellowish colored note is a 5,000 rupee note. The green one is 1,000 rupees. Then the purplish one is 500. Then we have 100, 50, and 20. And before I end, I'd like to tell you that unfortunately, 2025 is the last time we will be running trips to Sri Lanka. Hence, the space is limited. So please sign up early. The trips start mid-January and end by the end of March. I think there are about 4 or 5 trips to Sri Lanka in 2025. So thank you. And I will be up for any questions you might have regarding this trip.
All right, thank you so much. Now, before we start in with the question and answer session, I would like to remind everyone that you can submit your questions via the question field in your control panel. All right, so let's get to some of these questions. So, should I get my visa before I arrive?
Well, you can, it's easier if you get your visa before you arrive, but you can also get your visa on arrival. And like I mentioned, we go through the Silk Route, and we have an airport representative who will help you with immigration and fast track the procedure. So you can also do it on arrival. But on arrival, it's $10 more expensive. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Um, so let's see. Let's just get into some questions here. So if there are no natural lakes, how do the crocodiles survive and breed before there were year-round reservoirs?
So there would have been just water holes because we have two monsoons, the southwest monsoon and the northeast monsoon. And so we have rain in some part of the country all year round. So depending on where there were these little water holes, they would have just stayed there, but they weren't really large, just small areas in indentations where there were indentations in the land. There would have been these, the crocodiles would have been living there.
Aha, gotcha. Thank you so much. So would you recommend that we bring our own walking sticks, or is that something that you would supply if we need them?
We would supply if we need them because we don't need them. throughout most of the trip other than in Horton Plains. And we do carry walking sticks with us.
Good to know. Good to know. Thank you so much. So, can you tell us why all the male elephants don't have tusks?
It's a theory. They believe that we have artificially selected elephants out of the gene pool because we've always required tusked elephants for all our pageants and temple functions. They always chose a tusker. The Dutch also exported elephants and they used to choose the tusked elephants for export. And so they believe we've selected them artificially out of our gene pool.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. So, one of our guests heard that blue whales mate and give birth in the area. Is this true? And will the guest have an opportunity to see this?
Yes, we do have a resident population. Initially, they thought that all blue whales traveled around for feeding to the colder waters and then they came for breeding to the warm waters. But this population of blue whales, which are referred to as the pygmy blue whales, although they are called pygmy blue whales, they are not really very small. They are still about 100 feet long. Um, they seem to be a resident population, and it is believed because of we have about 108 rivers that flow out into the sea, and in two places, one on the northeast coast of Sri Lanka in Trincomalee and in Mirissa where we go out whale watching, the continental shelf comes very close to shore, so as a result, there is all this upwelling and lots of plankton for these whales to feed on, and that's why they seem to be around the island. Um, but like with all wildlife, you cannot be sure that you spot them. I used to be a researcher and doing work with dolphins and whales at one time in my life. And there were days that I went out from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening, and I wouldn't see one. And there were other days where there were lots of things, dolphins and whales, and you didn't know what you had to concentrate on. So that's how it is.
Gotcha. Good to know. So, um, is there a chance that we will see turtles laying eggs? And if so, when's the best time to come to see that?
Well, turtles lay eggs kind of pretty much all throughout the year. The last place where we stay at in Ahangama, I have walked with some guests along the beach during the time that they got stuck there during COVID. And we were able to see the tracks of turtles, but we didn't see them laying eggs. No, on our trip, we do not really see any turtles laying eggs unless we see their tracks on the beach.
Great, thank you. All right, so to clarify, can you tell us, is Sri Lanka part of India or is it a separate country?
It's a separate country. The
Gotcha.
people would get highly offended if you say, oh, it's a part of India. No, we like to think we are very different to India. I think
Well, they,
we are a typical island nation, very laid back in our attitude, very gentle, very hospitable people.
well, that's good to know before we go, isn't it? Uh, so on the trip, will there be time for us to actually do laundry while we're traveling?
Yes, in most of the places, if we give our laundry as we get in there, we should be able to get it before we leave.
Aha, great to know. Great to know. Um, so a couple of people are asking, why are we not going to Sri Lanka anymore? Do you have any idea?
I believe that we haven't had the numbers, sufficient numbers to fill up our trips. And it has been a decision taken by NATHAB as a result to take it off for a while.
Great, good to know. So this is your chance. So go ahead and come visit Sri Lanka while you can. Well,
Yes.
unfortunately, that is going to be the last question that we do have for today. So I'd like to throw it back to you for any closing comments you may have.
Yes, all I can say is that I hope all our trips get filled up, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you here in Sri Lanka and to be able to show you this beautiful island.
Great. Ramani, thank you so much for taking the time to present for us today. And I'd also like to thank everyone who joined us today. Now, if you are interested in information on how you can travel with NatHab, give us a call at 800-543-8917 or send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.